The Discovery. The signal from nowhere. Captain Zara Thalen stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Stellar Wind, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the edge of known space. The Calarian had spent 15 years mapping the outer regions of the galaxy, but this was different. This was the boundary that no one talked about anymore. "Captain, we're picking up that signal again," reported Dr. Brix Nolheim from his science station. The Vorthan's 6 arms moved across multiple control panels simultaneously, his compound eyes analyzing streams of data. "It's definitely artificial, but the pattern doesn't match any known galactic civilization." Zara nodded, her violet skin showing the faint luminescent patterns that indicated deep concentration among her people. 300 years had passed since the humans vanished from galactic politics. Most species had forgotten they ever existed, treating them as ancient history or legend. But Zara remembered the stories her grandmother told her about the strange, bipedal species that had once challenged the entire galaxy and then simply disappeared. "Distance to source?" she asked. "Approximately 12 light hours beyond the established boundary." Navigator Yul Gedris replied. The Aquan's gills fluttered nervously as he spoke. His species had evolved from ocean dwellers and still retained an instinctive fear of the unknown depths, whether of water or space. Lieutenant Kes Morrow, Zara's security chief and fellow Calarian, approached the captain's chair. "With respect, Captain, that's beyond our authorized exploration zone. The High Command was very clear about not crossing that line." Zara turned to face her old friend. They had served together for 8 years, and Kes had saved her life more than once. But sometimes caution needed to be balanced with curiosity. "The High Command gave us those orders 3 centuries ago," Zara said. "Back when the humans still existed as a galactic power, the situation has changed." "Has it?" Kes asked quietly. "Or have we just forgotten why those boundaries were set in the first place?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every species in the galaxy knew the basic history. Humans had appeared suddenly, spreading across star systems with impossible speed. They had fought wars against established powers, and won through tactics that seemed reckless, but proved effective. Then, just as suddenly, they had withdrawn from all galactic affairs and vanished beyond the outer rim. Dr. Nolheim looked up from his instruments. "Captain, the signal is definitely a distress beacon. Ancient design, but still broadcasting. If there are survivors, we investigate," Zara decided. "Set course for the signal source, but full alerts, shields up, and weapons ready." The Stellar Wind turned toward the unknown, its sleek hull cutting through the darkness between stars. As they approached the boundary, Yul reported increasing interference with their navigation systems. "It's like something is actively scanning us," he said, his voice tight with worry. "The readings are unlike anything in our databases." "Maintain course," Zara ordered. They crossed the invisible line that separated known space from the human frontier. Nothing dramatic happened, no alarms, no attacks, no obvious changes, but every crew member felt it, a subtle shift in the very fabric of space around them, as if they had entered a room where someone was watching from the shadows. "Signal source is dead ahead," Dr. Nolheim reported. "And Captain, you need to see this." The main view screen activated, revealing something that made the entire bridge crew fall silent. It was clearly a structure, but unlike anything they had ever encountered. Massive didn't begin to describe it. The thing was the size of a small moon, but its design was elegant, almost organic. Curved surfaces flowed into each other like frozen water, and lights pulsed along its length in patterns that seemed almost like a heartbeat. "By the depths," Yul whispered. "It's beautiful." "It's human," Zara said with certainty. She had studied the limited records that survived from the old days. This had their distinctive architectural style, functional but somehow artistic, as if they couldn't help but make even their most utilitarian structures pleasing to look at. "Life signs?" she asked. Dr. Nolheim's instruments swept the structure. "Minimal, maybe a dozen beings inside, but the readings are strange. Almost like they're in some kind of suspended state." "Dock with the structure. Full exploration team." An hour later, Zara led a team of 6 through the airlock into the human station. The corridors were wide and well lit, designed for beings who walked upright on two legs. Gravity was slightly lighter than standard, and the air mixture was oxygen-rich, perfect for human physiology but breathable for most galactic species. "The architecture is incredible," Dr. Nolheim observed, running his instruments over the walls. "These materials are unknown to us. They seem to be self-repairing, possibly self-improving. The technology level is far beyond anything we've achieved." They moved deeper into the station, following the source of the distress signal. The corridors were empty but not abandoned. Everything was clean, maintained, waiting. Finally, they reached a central chamber where the signal originated. Inside, they found 12 humans in suspended animation pods. "They're alive," Dr. Nolheim confirmed, his voice filled with wonder. "Vital signs are stable. These pods are maintaining them in perfect condition. But Captain, look at this data. According to these readings, they've been in suspension for almost 300 years. Zara approached the nearest pod. Inside was a human female, appearing to be in her 30s by human standards. Her features were peaceful, as if she were simply sleeping. A nameplate read Dr. Sarah Chen, Station Commander. "Can we wake them?" Zara asked. "I don't recommend it without knowing more about their biology and the suspension process," Dr. Nolheim replied. "But yes, it's technically possible." Before Zara could respond, the chamber filled with a soft chime. Lights began activating in sequence, and one of the pods started its revival cycle. "Captain," Kess said urgently, raising her weapon. "We didn't activate that." The pod opened with a soft hiss, and the human inside took a deep, shuddering breath. Dr. Sarah Chen opened her eyes, took a moment to focus, then sat up slowly. She looked around the chamber, taking in the alien visitors with remarkable calm. "You're not human," she said in perfect galactic standard, her voice slightly hoarse from centuries of disuse. "No," Zara replied. "I'm Captain Zara Thalen of the Kalarian Exploration Corps. We received your distress signal." Sarah smiled, and there was something both sad and knowing in her expression. "How long?" 300 years by our calculations." Sarah nodded as if she had expected this answer. "Then they've forgotten. The galaxy has forgotten what we are, what we're capable of." She stood slowly, her movements becoming more fluid as her body readjusted to consciousness. Despite having been in suspension for 3 centuries, she showed no signs of weakness or confusion. "Dr. Chen," Zara said carefully, "your people disappeared from galactic civilization 300 years ago. We thought your species had died out or retreated to your home system." "We didn't retreat," Sarah said, walking to a control panel and activating a holographic display. "We stepped back. There's a difference." The display showed a map of the galaxy, but not as any of them had ever seen it. Thousands of points of light marked human colonies, stations, and ships. They were everywhere, in the spaces between known civilizations and systems marked as empty or unexplored, even in some that other species claimed as their own. "You've been here all along," Dr. Nolheim breathed, watching, waiting, learning. Sarah turned to face them. "Do you know why we withdrew from galactic politics, Captain Thalen?" Zara shook her head. "Because we were becoming something the galaxy feared. Our expansion was too fast, our technology advanced too quickly, our methods were too effective. Every major power was preparing to unite against us. We could have fought them, we would have won, but victory would have meant the end of galactic civilization as you know it." Sarah gestured to the map. "So we made a choice. We stepped back, let you believe we were gone, and watched to see what you would become without us. We hoped you would grow, evolve, become something better. And have we?" Zara asked. Sarah's expression grew sad. "Some of you have. Others." She activated another display showing recent galactic conflicts, wars over resources, species enslaving. "Others. Others have not." Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Sarah's expression changed instantly, becoming sharp and focused. "What is that?" Kess demanded. Sarah was already moving to another control panel. "A fleet, large one. They've detected your ship and are moving to investigate." She looked at Zara with new intensity. Who knows you came here? Standard reporting. Protocols, Zara admitted. Our location and mission status are transmitted to High Command every 12 hours. Then they're not just investigating, Sarah said grimly. They're coming to claim what they think is an abandoned human facility. They have no idea what they're walking into. The display showed a Calarian battle fleet, 12 ships including heavy cruisers and a dreadnought, approaching their position. Admiral Corvin Hext's flagship led the formation. Captain, Sarah said, her voice taking on an urgent tone. You need to contact that fleet immediately. Tell them to stop, turn around, and leave this sector. On whose authority? Zara asked. Sarah smiled, but there was no humor in it. On mine. And on behalf of the 2 million humans who have been waiting 300 years for someone to cross the line. The lights in the chamber suddenly blazed brighter, and throughout the station, systems that had been dormant for centuries began coming online. The gentle hum of power became a thrumming pulse of energy. 2 million, Dr. Nullheim whispered. Did you think this was the only station? Sarah asked. Captain, your people are about to discover why the galaxy's maps end at human space. Contact that fleet now, or they'll learn the hard way that humans didn't disappear. We evolved. The display. The approaching fleet continued its advance, weapons powered and ready for what they assumed would be an easy salvage operation. They had no idea they were flying into the territory of a species that had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. Sarah walked to the center of the chamber and spoke to the air. Guardian protocols active. Perimeter breach confirmed. Initiate awakening sequence for sectors 7 through 12. Throughout the station, the remaining suspension pods began their revival cycles. But more than that, across the holographic map, thousands of other points of light began pulsing with renewed activity. Stations, ships, and colonies that had waited, in silence for 3 centuries, were stirring to life. What have you done? Zara whispered. What we swore we would do if the galaxy forgot the lessons of the past, Sarah replied. We're reminding them why humans withdrew in the first place. The question now is whether your Admiral Hext is wise enough to listen to reason, or if he's about to restart a war that ended 3 centuries ago. The tactical display showed the Calarian fleet was now only hours away from the human station. Time was running out, and the fate of galactic civilization hung in the balance. Sarah turned to Zara with eyes that held the weight of centuries. Captain, I hope your people have learned wisdom in our absence, because if they haven't, they're about to remember why the rest of the galaxy once trembled at the mention of humanity. The Reckoning. The fleet arrives. Captain Zara Thallon stood in the human station's command center, watching the tactical display with growing dread. Admiral Corvin Hext's battle fleet had dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, their weapons already charged and shields raised. 12 ships of the Calarian Navy, including the massive dreadnought Sovereign's Wrath, arranged themselves in an attack formation. Dr. Sarah Chen, now fully awakened and moving with the fluid grace of someone far younger than her 3 centuries of existence suggested, worked at multiple control panels simultaneously. Around the chamber, 11 other humans had emerged from their suspension pods, each taking positions at various stations with practiced efficiency. Dr. Chen, Zara said urgently, let me contact Admiral Hext directly. I can explain the situation, make him understand that this isn't what he thinks. Sarah didn't look up from her console. You can try, Captain, but I know his type. I've dealt with his kind before. He sees an opportunity to claim human technology, and that greed will override any caution. The communication array crackled to life, and Admiral Hext's stern face appeared on the main screen. The older Calarians' battle-scarred features showed the confidence of someone who had never encountered a force he couldn't overcome. Captain Thallon, Hext said without preamble, you will withdraw your vessel immediately. This sector is now under military jurisdiction. Admiral, with respect, you don't understand the situation, Zara began. The humans aren't extinct. This facility is occupied and operational. We're in the middle of a first contact scenario. Hext's expression hardened. The humans disappeared 3 centuries ago, Captain. What you've found is salvage, nothing more. Withdraw now, or be classified as interfering with a military operation. One of the newly awakened humans, a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes, approached Sarah. Guardian protocols are fully active, he reported. All stations from here to the Galactic Core are responding. Fleet Command wants to know if we're implementing a full response. Sarah considered for a moment. Not yet, Marcus. Let's see if wisdom has grown in our absence. She turned to the communication array. Admiral Hex, this is Dr. Sarah Chen, Commander of Deep Space Research Station Omega-7. I'm formally requesting that you withdraw your fleet from this sector, immediately. Hex laughed, the sound harsh and dismissive. A human? Impossible. Even if some survived in that ancient coffin, you have no authority here. This is Calarian space now. Actually, Admiral, Sarah said calmly, you're wrong on both counts. First, this sector was never ceded to the Calarian Republic. Our withdrawal 3 centuries ago was voluntary, not a surrender. Second, you're not dealing with survivors, you're dealing with guardians. The tactical display around them suddenly expanded, showing not just the immediate area but the entire region of space surrounding them. What had appeared empty on Calarian star charts now revealed the truth. Dozens of massive installations, hidden fleets, and defensive networks that had been invisible to galactic sensors for 3 centuries. Dr. Nolheim stared at the display, in amazement. How did we never detect any of this? Marcus, who had introduced himself as the station's military advisor, smiled grimly. Because you weren't supposed to. Human stealth technology advanced considerably during our sabbatical. On the communication screen, Admiral Hext's expression had changed from confidence to confusion as his own sensors began picking up the previously hidden installations. What kind of trick is this? Some kind of holographic deception? No trick. Admiral, Sarah replied. Just 300 years of technological development without interference. We used that time well. One of Hex's officers could be heard in the background reporting massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system. The Admiral's face darkened as he realized he had walked his fleet into a trap of unimaginable proportions. I don't care. What kind of illusions you're projecting, Hex snarled. 12 ships of the line can handle whatever ancient technology you've managed to keep running. All vessels, battle stations, target the central facility. Admiral, don't do this, Zara pleaded. They're trying to show you respect by giving you a chance to withdraw. Don't mistake mercy for weakness. But Hext had already cut the communication. The Calarian fleet began its attack run, plasma torpedoes and energy beams lancing toward the human station. Sarah sighed sadly. Some species never learn. Marcus, implement defensive posture only. Let's not be more destructive than necessary. What happened next redefined everything the galactic community thought they knew about warfare. The human station didn't dodge the incoming fire, it absorbed it. Energy barriers that seemed to bend the laws of physics redirected the plasma, torpedoes harmlessly into space, while beam weapons simply dissipated against shields that shouldn't have been possible. But the humans didn't stop at defense. From the hidden installations around the system, new vessels began emerging. They were sleek, organic-looking ships that moved with impossible grace and speed. Within minutes, the Calarian battle fleet found itself completely surrounded by a force 3 times their size. Admiral Hext, Sarah's voice came through the Calarian fleet's communication systems, somehow bypassing all their security protocols. This is your final warning. Withdraw now and this ends here. Continue your attack and face the consequences. Hext's response was to order his dreadnought's main cannon to fire directly at the human station. The massive energy beam capable of destroying a small moon struck the station's shields and simply stopped. The energy was absorbed, converted, and redirected back toward the attacking ship as a gentle pulse that disabled their weapon systems without harming the crew. Impossible, Dr. Nolheim whispered. The energy requirements alone. We learned to think differently about energy, Marcus explained. About matter, about space, about time. 3 centuries of focused development, without the distractions of politics or war, can accomplish remarkable things. The human ships around the Calarian fleet began moving with coordinated precision. They didn't fire weapons. They didn't need to. Their mere presence generated fields that systematically shut down the Calarian vessel's offensive capabilities while leaving life support and basic systems intact. Within 30 minutes, Admiral Hext's entire battle fleet was effectively neutralized, without a single casualty on either side. How? Was all Hext could manage when Sarah re-established communication. Because we remembered something your people seem to have forgotten, Sarah replied. The goal of conflict should be resolution, not destruction. We could have destroyed your fleet in the first minute of your attack. Instead, we chose to demonstrate our capabilities while preserving life. She gestured to Marcus, who activated another display showing the true scope of human civilization. The galaxy map revealed the staggering truth. Humanity had not merely survived, they had flourished. Hidden colonies existed in every sector, advanced beyond anything the galactic community had achieved. Why? Admiral Hext asked, his voice smaller now. Why hide? Why not reclaim your place in galactic society? An older human woman approached the communication array. She had been the last to awaken from suspension, and her bearing suggested someone of considerable authority. Because, Admiral, she said, we were waiting to see what you would become. I am Captain Elena Vasquez, representing the Human Colonial Defense Network. 3 centuries ago, we made a choice. We could have conquered the galaxy. We had the military might and technological superiority to do so. Instead, we withdrew, hoping that the other species would grow, evolve, become something better. She activated another display showing recent galactic history, wars, slavery, ecological destruction, species driving others to extinction for resources. Some of you did grow, Elena continued. Some of you learned cooperation, developed wisdom, created beauty, but others, like your Admiral Hext here, remained locked in the same patterns of aggression and greed that have plagued the galaxy for millennia. Admiral Hext straightened in his command chair, some of his old arrogance returning. And what gives humans the right to judge the rest of us? You're no better than any other species. Sarah smiled sadly. You're right, Admiral. We're not better. We're just older and we've learned from our mistakes. The difference is we had the luxury of time to grow beyond our primitive impulses. You haven't had that luxury. Until now. Elena stepped forward. Here's what's going to happen, Admiral. You and your fleet are going to return to Calarian space. You're going to report that this sector remains under human protection, and that any future incursions will be met with appropriate response. In return, we're prepared to share some of our technological advances, medical treatments, environmental restoration techniques, energy generation methods that could help your people. And if we refuse, Hext asked, then you'll discover what the galaxy feared 3 centuries ago, Elena replied. The humans you remember were young, aggressive, barely in control of their own power. The humans you face now have had 3 centuries to perfect the art of war while learning the wisdom of peace. I pray you never force us to demonstrate the difference. Captain Zara, who had been silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke up. Admiral, they're offering us a partnership, not demanding our surrender. This is exactly the kind of opportunity the Exploration Corps was created to find. Hext looked around his disabled bridge, at his neutralized fleet, at the overwhelming display of human technological superiority. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its aggressive edge. What are your terms? Elena relaxed slightly. Simple. Respect our boundaries. We'll maintain our current territories, but we won't expand into areas currently occupied by other species. In return, we'll serve as mediators in major conflicts, provide technological assistance for humanitarian crises, and gradually reintegrate with galactic society on equal terms. You want to be partners, not rulers, Zara said with understanding. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. We spent 3 centuries learning that true strength isn't the ability to dominate others. It's the wisdom to know when not to use your power. Over the next several hours, the terms of a new galactic arrangement were negotiated. The Human Colonial Defense Network would reveal itself gradually, establishing formal diplomatic relations with the major powers. Advanced human technology would be shared slowly, ensuring that it would be used responsibly rather than becoming another tool for warfare. Admiral Hext, humbled by his encounter with forces beyond his comprehension, became an unexpected advocate for the new arrangement. His fleet returned to Calarian space with a message that would reshape galactic politics forever. As the negotiations concluded, Captain Zara found herself alone with Dr. Sarah Chen in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Why, did you really withdraw?" Zara asked quietly. "The real reason." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Because we saw what we were becoming and it terrified us. We were turning into the kind of species that parents tell their children about in cautionary tales. We had the power to reshape the galaxy in our image, and that much power. It changes you. Not always for the better." She gestured toward the stars. "So we made a choice. We stepped back, let you all believe we were gone, and used that time to figure out how to be worthy of the power we wielded. It took 3 centuries, but I think we finally learned the most important lesson, which is that the strongest civilizations aren't the ones that can destroy their enemies. They're the ones that can turn their enemies into friends." As Captain Zara returned to her ship to begin the journey back to Calarian space, she carried with her not just the knowledge of humanity's survival, but the hope that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had finally found the guardians it needed. The humans were back, not as conquerors, but as the wise protectors they had always had the potential to become. The maps would have to be redrawn, but for the first time in centuries, they would be drawn in the spirit of cooperation rather than conquest. The Silent Watchers had finally decided to speak, and the galaxy would never be the same.